Been excellent. So, welcome to Canva for Beginners. And what I really want to stress right now is that this is very much Canva for beginners. I'm going to take you through the real basics. It's for people that are just opening Canva for the first time, or maybe they've opened it a couple of times, but they're more confused than anything else and not sure what to do. I'm just going to take you through that. And when I finish off, I'll finish off with what I consider 10 and a half tips for beginners that you really should understand almost immediately. And you can kind of rules that you can live by. And then next week, we're going to get a little more advanced. Next week, we'll talk about video, audio dubbing, background removal, making things. Right now, I just want to get you started. I want to get you comfortable with Canva. We can go from there. Now, I can't really watch my screen, so if you have any questions or you'd like to interrupt, please kind of raise your hand or put something in the chat, and Tracy will keep an eye on the chat, and I'll let her interrupt me every now and again if she wants to chat. So let's talk first of all about the what you. Let me just quickly move this out my way. Okay, what you see when you open Canva for the very first time. Now, once again, let me just stress that I'm a Canva Pro user. In other words, I've paid for Canva. It's about 1,000 Rand a year. It's money very, very well spent, comes very highly recommended. I am not a Canva affiliate. I get no commission from them whatsoever. I'm not going to give you a link where I get commission if you join, but I really do recommend that you do consider, if you're planning to use Canva often and for your social media, whatever, it really is money well spent. And I'll talk you through some of the big differences along the way as we go there. So I'll just keep an eye on the chat while we're there. Recording notes will be sent to all participants. Perfect. I see Tracy's chatting along. Okay, so when you arrive at Canva, you kind of get a screen that looks like this. This is, if you're very new, you might only have one or two. As you can see, I've been designing for years and years and years. So kind of my stuff that I design, I have to hope nothing just runs and runs and runs and runs and runs. So let's start off right at the top left-hand side here. Let's run through those buttons over here. This interesting little open menu button. So if you click that, all that happens is your workspace gets a little bit smaller and you get an opportunity to click on stuff over here. Kind of a quick link. You can always click that. It goes away. See there, click that, toggle between the two of them. Next is your create button. I'm going to get to that a bit later on. Then there's the home button, which obviously takes you to the home. There's a button called projects, where anything that you've designed before and placed into projects can be found. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you is something that I don't do often enough, and I really recommend you do, is you can see as you go along there, untitled design, untitled design, untitled design, untitled design. I get a bit lazy, and instead of naming every one of my designs, I just run the untitled design, which makes it really difficult when I'm looking for something. So rule number one, as you start a project or a piece of work, name it and describe it so that you can find it again. As you can see, this is going to be very much do what I say and not do what I do, because I get a bit lazy myself. A bit further down are some templates over here. And Canva has some absolutely incredible templates. And just to tell you about templates, when I teach Canva privately, which I do every now and again, I always tell people that for the first 10 designs minimum, they have to use a template. They're actually not allowed to try and design on their own without using a template, because Canva really does understand design. It understands what's called white space. It understands fonts. And when a newbie comes onto Canva, the first thing they want to do is put as much as possible on the page, as bright a background, why use 7 fonts when 14 would be just as good? Why use 2 colors when 19 colors would certainly make it look better? But it really doesn't. And that's one of the things. So rule number one in Canva is less is more. Less fonts, less pictures, less writing makes your designs that much better. If you have a lot to say and you're doing something on social media, may I recommend that you put the description into the Facebook post. The image is there to grab people's attention. If they're looking at an image and all they're seeing is a lot of writing and a lot of colors and a lot of different fonts, chances of them even clicking on it are so remote. What you want your Canva design to do is to capture attention and have people click on it. So that's the templates. Then if you're in Pro, you can see there's a little crown there next to the word brand on the left-hand side there, because brands are only available um, to pro users. And you can see here, you can have your logos, you can have your colors, you can have your fonts. So for example, if I click on colors, there are all my colors. You can see when I was doing the AutoChat website, there are all Auth's colors. This is the daily. These are the corporate colors that I use myself. When I was doing Aerochem's work, when I was working with Nedbank, those are Nedbank's colors. So what I do is I name them. If I'm working with my own colors, I like them to be the same all the time. It just gives continuity. If I'm working with a client, I'll go and get their client colors. So for example, I might want to be doing something for Coca-Cola. I'll simply go along to Coca-Cola red color hex code. It's called the hex code. And there we go. There's the code FE001A. FE001A. So if I come back here and I want to add a color, so let's just, where are we here? There's add a new color. I type in there FE, what was that number? 001A, FE001A. There it is. Boom, it's added. There's the Coca-Cola. No, I put the wrong. Double FE double. There it is. There's the Coca-Cola color added to my palette. So just to show you, this is where you'll keep your colors. That's in your brand kit. There's also something called Canva AI. And Canva AI is where you can describe an idea and help it come to life. It's pretty good. I'd say it's more than adequate, but there are better design programs. Right now, I'm finding that Gemini AI and what they're calling Nano Banana is definitely the leader when it comes to image design with AI. We'll come to that a bit later on. And then down near bottom, some apps, how to grow, some content planner, and also design school, where you can actually go and learn the Canva. Also, if you go onto YouTube, there's a lot of Canva courses you can follow yourself. If you get a bit stuck and I'm not available at the time, that's where you find it. So let's go back to the home page. We're back here at the home page. I'm going to close up that little thing here. And now I'm going to take you through a simple design because that's the easiest way to do it. So what you'll do, first of all, is just hit that button, create. Now, the next rule of Canva is let's start with the right design. So what am I going to design? Am I going to design something for my website? Am I design something for my desktop? Am I designing a logo? Am I designing some media? Am I designing a poster for a client? Am I designing a resume, a Facebook post? But I'm going to jump over here quickly to a Facebook post because it's just quite a nice size to work on. And I'm simply going to hit Facebook post. Now what we have in front of us, all of a sudden the whole screen has changed. On the left-hand side here, we have elements, text, brand, upload, tools, etc. And I just want to show you something here as we go along. I don't want to use magic, right? So we're in design, we've clicked on it, and now we have a whole lot of other buttons. I'm going to run through some of them right now. First thing is elements. In elements, that's where you'll kind of find everything. Shapes, graphics, 3D, animations, photos, frames, grids, videos, etc. So let's click on one of them, for example. There's shapes. And let's say, for example, there's Valentine's coming up. So I'm looking for a heart. I click heart. There are a couple of shapes. These are all in shapes. I quite like that one. I click on it. There's a shape. Quite simple. Hold my mouse down, drag the shape around, put it wherever I want. Now, what I want to show you is that when I get towards the edges of my page, you'll see that purple line coming up. Those are kind of the boundaries that I'm going to try and work to as much as possible. Occasionally I'll cross them, but it's to allow what I said to you earlier, white space. In other words, I'm not going to position stuff against the edges, which makes it very uncomfortable for people to look at and read without even understanding why they are. So there we have our size. There we have our heart. The first thing I can do with the heart is I can change the color. So I can go to colors over there. I can go down to all the color palettes. There are default colors. I can look at the red colors. I can look at that Coca-Cola red if I want. I can make it a blue color. I can make it black, like my heart at the moment, because I don't have a Valentine's. So if you're free for Valentine's, please just say so in the comments and I'll hunt you down. No, I'm just kidding. So the next thing I can do once I've designed this is I can change the size of it. And how do I do that? Simply by dragging and dropping one of the little corners there as I go along. See there? Now, if I use this side here, what I am going to do is I'm going to squeeze it. So I don't want to do that. If I've made something the wrong size and I'm not happy, I can just undo. There's an undo button up there. And a shortcut for undo is Control Z. So Control Z, Control Z. There we are. Now I've got the size and the shape that it was. Sorry, the shape that it was. So I can move it around. Put it in the middle. Another thing I might want to do is I might want to have a whole lot of hearts on my page. So right over here, you'll see a little duplicate button there. If I click duplicate, there's another one's just started on its own. I can make that one a little bit smaller, maybe make that one a red color. Then I might want to only duplicate this one, not that one. So I just go duplicate, put that there, make this one even a little bit smaller. Another thing you can do with your shapes is you can turn them. There's a little, you can see that little wheel at the bottom. I can just give it a little bit of shape. I like that. It kind of seems to fit better with the other heart. That one, we'll just leave it like that. Let's do, so another thing I can do if I don't want to hit the duplicate button all the time is like everything else, there are shortcuts. If I press Control C, that copies it. Then every time I press Control V, I'll get another heart. So there are my hearts. And I'm kind of busy designing my little, they shouldn't all face the same way. So we'll just randomly turn some of them a little bit more. They look like that. Now I look at them and I think to myself, you know what? I really would prefer these hearts over here to be pink and not red. So I click on them once again. I go up here. And in the colors, I can actually describe the color I'm looking for, pink. There are some pink colors. I can pick the one I want. I can say I want that one to be that one. I maybe want this one to be a slightly different color. I want that one to be a slightly different color. But what I also might want to do is make a few of them like this one. So how do I do that? Top right-hand side there, there's a little copy style button. I just click on that one. Now, any one that I click on, it will make them all the same. Another thing you can do with objects and anything in your picture is you can collect a few of them. So if I click on that one, I can go there and I can always select multiple. Okay, just go there, hold down my shift button, click on another one and another one and another one, another one. You'll see I've highlighted them all together. Now I can quickly go and change all their colors at the same time. So I'm working on multiples of them. If I find a group that I like, for example, this group, this one, and this one, I've highlighted them. There's a button there called Group. I've now grouped them all together. Now I can move them around, shift them around in their little group without having to move each one individually because I'm so happy with where I've got everything. So that's just a little bit of fun with shapes. There are plenty of them. Go back to elements, go back to shapes. Let's just go back to shapes. Here's some trending, recently used shapes. Here's another one. Let's add a star. You can have multiple shapes on different things. And let's say, for example, I'm going to make this shape black. Now, you'll notice that I've got this star shape is over the, let's ungroup those. The star shape is sitting over that one. Maybe I want it behind it. No problem. I can simply go to position. And in position, I can go to arrange and I can just wait for it to, and I can go backwards or forwards to the back, forwards to move it there. If I want to be very, very precise, I can go to layers and I can actually choose exactly where I want it to be. And we'll talk about that a bit more in advanced, but just gives you an idea of just how powerful. So you can see right now, it's still behind that one. It's now just behind the red one over there. I might want to move it, whatever. So that shape's fun to deal with. What I'm going to do quickly is just delete them all. So I'm just going to drag my mouse over all of them. You can see they're all highlighted. Just press delete so that we now have an empty box over there. Also in Elements, we'll find in Elements, we've got graphics. Graphics are like more exciting shapes. So for example, I'm looking for a tick or a cross or something that says legendary. Everything I want is there. I just type into graphics and I'll say, for example, South Africa. I mean, let's do Valentine's. So we're on this Valentine's theme. Valentine's. There's Valentine's Day. Search Valentine's Day. See what comes up. Ah, look, there's a nice little border. If I want to create something, I'll just pop that on the corner. Obviously, that's a border, so we are looking to use the edges. There's a whole lot of hearts already done for me. Run them along the page over there. Change their color to pink, as we discussed earlier. I was only changing some of them. Some are changeable, some aren't. And so that's graphics for you. There are some fantastic graphics at the moment. I'm going to skip 3D and animation just for a while because I think we're going to get to those a bit more in advanced. Next is photos. So here it'll tell me what I've recently used, give me some magic recommendations based on what I've used, and also show me what's trending at the moment. So you can see at the moment these are trending, but really what I'm looking for is Valentine's. Click on Valentine's. I see some pictures coming up now. Now, very important, I want to show you something here in the Valentine's. As we look at the pictures, you'll see that some of them have a crown. This one over here does not, that one does not, that one does not, but these have crowns. As a pro user, I can use any image that's available to me. If you're not a pro user, you won't be able to use that particular one. So what you really want to do is go to price and click free. Then only the free ones will come up, because very often what happens if you're not, you didn't realize, you press pro, you found something that you really liked, you designed your whole design around it, only to find out later on when you tried to export it that you weren't allowed to, or you had to pay extra for it. So I do recommend that if you are a free user, you simply go here and you only look at free elements at that particular time, just to save you some frustration a bit later on. So those are the pictures, those are the elements. I can use any of them. Once I've put a picture on here, very much like a shape, I can resize it simply by dragging and dropping it. I can move it around by dragging it around. I can also right-click on it and I can click Set Image as Background, and it'll automatically become my background. Now, sometimes what you're going to find is that an image you use, let me see if I can just give you a better example of that, by using this one over here, Set Image. Now you'll see that this box, for example, is cut off. And it looks very uncomfortable to my eye. I'm quite used to it. If I double click on it, it opens and then I can drag it to exactly where I want it to be. So I can use that section of the image that I want to by moving it around. If I want to, I can just click on it again. I can detach image from background, and there the image is again. And once again, I can just use that image up there anywhere I like. Elements. Okay. Now, one of the things that's available on Canva Pro and isn't available to the free version is this little thing here called Background Remover, which I find extremely powerful. So, for example, if I want to remove the background, now I'm left with the flowers and the box, but I can put any background I want behind it. I can put any color background that I want along there. There are workarounds. You can find free background removers on the web. Just do a search for one of those. All that means is you have to export your image, then import it into the background remover, export it as a PNG with a clear background, and then bring it back. But so let's not get stuck on too much on that. So I'm just going to go back a little bit.
We have a question, Mark, question from Paula. With regards to PowerPoint, she said, can I design a PowerPoint slide in Canva and then move it to the presentation, or is it better to design in PowerPoint?
Okay, so I'm going to leave that for next week for advanced, because that's exactly the kind of stuff we're going to do in advanced. There are very different ways to do presentations, and I'll talk you through all of it. I'll talk you through all the things that it can do, how to design your presentations, how to import them into PowerPoint, how to just use them in Canva, which are the best. But I do think that's more of an advanced question. So if you don't mind, I'm not sure who it was who asked it. Paula, if we can just wait for next week, I'll do all that kind of thing for you next week. Okay, great. Thank you. So now we have our image. We can move our image around. Another really nice thing we can do with Canva, let's say, for example, I've put this background, I've set it as a background. That doesn't mean that's the only image I'm going to use. I can go back to Valentine's. I can look for, I'm just going to change to Pro just so that I can see all the things that are here. There are some more images. Oh, I really like those hearts over there. Bring those hearts in once again, do a background remove. They're my hearts, add them to my current design. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but you can really do a whole lot of things. I can resize those. I'm starting to make some. You can see when I move it, I can see the strings up here. So I don't want the strings to come out of nowhere. So I'm just moving the strings up to the top there. So there's images. I can use different images all the time, all my photos. Let's get rid of those photos quickly. So go back to a blank page. Another thing I really like are things called frames. Frames are quite interesting. They're ways to add pictures. So let's say, for example, now I'm making a kind of scrapbook look that I want. Come along here to film and photo. Have a look at all of them. There's a nice Polaroid picture. Put my Polaroid picture there. Turn a little bit to the side. Let's just do one thing quickly before I do that. I'm just going to go back to pictures. Go back to photos. I'll show you one other little thing that I love in photos. There's photos. Let's do champagne. Champagne. There's some champagne. Let's leave not that one. I'll find something that I can. I just want to have this picture up here of the champagne. So now another thing you can do with any of your images is if you go into edit, then a whole other screen comes up here. And I don't want to get into too much of this, but I'm going to tell you what the best are. The first is obviously background remover, which we saw earlier on over there. Another thing I really like is shadows. So I can click shadows and I can give that whole picture a drop shadow. It just automatically gives it a drop shadow. If I go into edit and I go to that drop shadow, I can also edit that drop shadow. I can blur it a little bit more, a little bit less. I can change the angle. I can make the shadow look like it's coming from the top or the bottom, giving an effect of where the light is. And I can also make that shadow bigger or kind of smaller according to what I want. I can even change the color and the intensity, but you can mess around with that a little bit, and we'll come to some of the other shadows a bit later on. What's really nice, and I'll just go back to my picture, it's got some automatic shadows. So for example, if I go back to edit and I go to shadow, I can give it a curve. You can see what I did there on the bottom to make it look like the piece of paper was lying on the page, or I can give it some page lift to make it look like it's bent there or angled, or even to make it look like it's a backdrop, like there's a picture at the back there. But you'll play with these as you get along. To be honest, the basic shadows are a really nice thing just to know. So for example, I can combine two things. I can do a background remove on it. And let me just show you something about the background remove. Let's go back there. So in the background remove, you can see here in the bottom corner here, it's left elements from the background that I obviously do not want in my picture. If I click on background remove again, I go to eraser and I can actually now go and remove those myself, or as close to as possible. I'm not doing this very carefully, but I would be a lot more careful if I was doing it for a client's design. I would make sure I didn't have those things. By that, I could just, for example, make my brush a lot smaller and get in a lot tighter on it. Once I'm ready with it, I just click done. And there's my image. Now what I can do with this one, I'm just going to put it in the corner there, just to Control Z, just make it a little bit bigger for you. And I'm going to now combine it with another one. I'm going to go back to edit and I'm going to go back to shadows. And this time I'm going to put a drop shadow on that picture. Let's change the angle to coming from the top there. Move that into the corner. Now it looks like that hand is actually off the page, giving that effect of someone making a toast outside of the image that's in the background. Yes, Tammy, the background movie is only available on subscription, but as I said, there are workarounds that you can use. For me, it's one of the reasons to actually pay for the subscription. It is so good that it's worth the money, just the background remover, because of so many applications that it has. So there we've done some images. Where we went? Oh, we're going to have a look at some frames. So frames are really interesting. So for example, there are a whole lot of different frames. I might looking for a shape. Let's say I want to demonstrate something to you that appeared on my computer screen. I can drop in a computer screen over there. Put it in the middle. Oh, sorry, just to tell you, I always use File, Settings, Show Rules and Guides. I'll always show them. There's your rules and guides. So I can see the guides. I can see them as they go along. I can also create my own guides. So for example, let's not get ahead of ourselves. That's a bit too advanced for right now. So let's just work on what I was doing. I get so excited with Canva that I sometimes forget what I'm supposed to be doing. So now I want to show you my screen. So for example, on the side over here, here's my Facebook page. Control screenshot. I just made a screenshot of my thing. Come back here, press Control V, import my own picture. There it is. And did you see what happened? As I'm moving it, as I bring it into the image, it's going to automatically assume the shape of the image. So now it looks like I've taken my Facebook page, and once again, I can move it a little bit inside there. There's my Facebook page inside a frame that I've changed as we go along. Other frames you might want to be able to, you might use, you can even do a search here. It's Valentine's coming up again. Let's look for some hearts. There's a nice heart one. Pop that one over there, pop that one over there. That's made up of two. Then I can go back to photos and let's type in couple in love. Oh, there's a nice couple in love. Let's put them inside that frame. Move it a little, doesn't move it around a little bit. There we go. Put this couple inside this one. You'll see there's a third frame there. Let's put those hearts inside that one over there. So without much effort, I've been able to create this little montage by using frames. And they're all different ones. Let me just go back to elements. They're frames, take off hearts. There's a nice Polaroid picture. I can put a Polaroid picture over here. Go back to frames. Go back to photos. Go to young love. See what we get. Actually looking for a nice young cute couple. Oh, there with their dog. Pop that in there. Move it around a little bit. There we have. And we're just creating a montage by using frames. So frames are really nice, fun ways to build things. Let me just remove all of these quickly. So we've got our blank screen again. Go back to elements. Those are frames. Another thing I really love using is grids. Grids are a really nice way to line up images. So for example, if I want to show a before and after picture of something, I might, for example, click on those two. I can also readjust the size of them. They don't have to take up the whole space, but they do fill the space as I click on it. I might want to show 4 elements at the same time. I'll just look down for a box with 4. There's a box with 4. Now I can show 4 different elements in the same thing with a different picture in each one. Let's say, for example, I'm demonstrating a cooking dish. Go to photos, go to baking. Might want to have one called ingredients, have one called preparation, have one called cooking instructions, and let's have one called an enjoying. and boom, 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 without much work, without having to lay anything out, then I've done it all. I can also make that whole box a little bit smaller, put the box in the middle if I want, change the color. Oh, sorry, let's talk about the background quickly. This plain white background at the back there, if you don't want it to be white, just simply click on there. There's a whole lot of background colors that are available. Obviously, I've typed in the word pink. If you don't have typed in the word pink, all your colors will come up there. A really nice thing that Canva does is it imports the photos that you're using and offers you some colors that match the background. So I can look for those same colors that are appearing in my image. I can bring them in there. I can also put gradients at the background, but too dark for my liking. I can do my own colors. I can do brand kits. I can go pick a color myself. I can pick a style. I can pick there's a solid color. I can, just by simply moving this around, I can find the exact color that I want. It's also got something called color picker. I can pick the color picker. I can even go to another page. So for example, now I'm on the Facebook page, which is on the screen you can't see right now. I'm clicking on it and I've put the Facebook blue into it. So I can go to my clients, I can go to their brand colors, and I can find and pick colors along the way. I can also pick colors from in here. I want that particular pink as my background. There it is. So that's the color picker over there. So that's kind of frames. If I want to change any of them, I can simply delete.
Mark, when you add an element,
yes.
How do you access it from the photos that you've uploaded?
Your own photos?
Yes, Tammy has asked.
Okay, so let me quickly finish up. Let's do uploads. In fact, let's do uploads right now. One of the really nice things about Canva is that you can upload any image you want at the moment. So if I click on the word uploads over here, almost every picture that I've ever uploaded will go here. And I shouldn't scroll through too many of them because I'm not sure what I'm going to find in my uploads. But so there we are. There's my, anyone want to come for a steak? There's the beef rib. There's our steak. You just simply go in there, drag and drop them into the place you want. Put me serving the food over there. So there we go. It's quite simple as that. Those are all in my uploads. How do you upload? That's very easy. I can either hit the button here that says upload file. And when I hit the upload file, I can go into my images and I can find anyone. So for example, I might want to add that image that I generated with Grok, I think, the other day. In fact, here's another. Let's rather put this one. I can open this file. And there it is. It's uploading it myself. Once I've uploaded it, so I think my internet's a little slow at the moment. But once uploaded, I can put it. Oh, let's just go back. Okay, so now one of the challenges when you upload a picture frame is that every time I move the frame, it wants to jump into those pictures. You can see it doing that. But if I hold down the control key while I'm doing it, it won't do that. So I can now put it kind of where I want it over there. I can do a background remove on it. Sorry, definitely is a bit of a slow internet connection at my house at the moment. Change that. Z. Okay, so that's how you upload. Another way you can upload is you can simply drag and drop something. So I could, for example, go to Mossel Bay, a town in South Africa. I know you can't see it at the moment. I'll find an image there. I just drag that image across, drop it in my downloads. And there we are. I've now got a picture of Mossel Bay. So you can certainly add as many or whatever pictures you want. You can see I just have got hundreds and hundreds of pictures in my uploads. I've got videos that I've uploaded before, ones that I've made before when I'm doing client work. I've got audio files that I've uploaded before. I can also create folders. So those are kind of my favorites at the moment. If I need to use that, that's a picture I want to use very often. It's there. Once again, it's just about being organized and getting organized in things. So those are your uploads, and you'll always find them on the left-hand side there under uploads. There are your images. Anything that you've ever saved will always be there unless you literally click on it and go move to trash. Then it'll stay in your trash folder for about 30 days before it disappears on its own. I do that every now and again. I go clean up my folder. So let's get rid of that one. Let's get rid of that whole thing. And we've looked through some elements, kind of, those are the elements that I would recommend you use at the moment. But also a nice one is also here called mockups. So for example, if I want to show how something will look, for example, on a mug, I can just do a mock-up of a mug. There's someone holding a mug. Sorry, there, delete one of those. There's a mug. Let's make that really big so you can all see it. Now what I should be able to do is just drag one of my uploads, that one there, drag it into the mug. There we are. Now it shows you how that would look as a mug. I don't have to go and create everything. I could do that as well. It's done that. Try something else. There's the Nike swoosh. Put that in there. I can see how that mug would look. Come on, come on, come on. Speed up. Sorry, my connection is definitely a little bit slow. But that should have gone into the place of the... So let's get rid of that one. So we're back to elements. So there are mockups, kind of easy things you can use, little games you can play on that side. There are also sheets and tables and charts, but we'll go through those a bit later. You can do forms, you can do audio frames, but that'll give you a pretty good idea of what you can do in elements. The next most important thing is going to be text and font. As I click on the text, so something completely different comes up over here. There are some template fonts, and then it's just simply my brand kit. So for example, if I want to add some writing, I just click there. There it comes, heading. There's the heading. Once again, just like all the other elements, I'll make it bigger and smaller by dragging it. I also can increase the size by doing the fonts. I can also drop that down and jump to particular sizes that I want, or go up element by element. So my first line. There, I've typed it in. I don't, let me go back and show you all. Just highlight it, and I type my first. Close that. I hit the wrong button. My first line. Okay, rule number one with fonts. Less is more. If possible, only 2 fonts per design. One for a heading and one for the body of the font. Now, if you get lots of fancy fonts. So let's go quickly to do some of this quickly. There it is. Up here, you'll see Poppins. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of fonts available on Canva. There's almost no font that you can't come up with. And also, for example, I can go up here and I can just look through some of the grouped already for me. So there's a sans serif font. Sans serifs are fonts without any little squiggly lines on them. And serif fonts, obviously, are the opposite. They've got squiggly lines on them. Where's my serif font? You'll see serif fonts. So the difference between a sans serif and a serif. You can see those little squiggly lines there. Those are serif fonts. Serif fonts are a little more old-fashioned. They have a little bit more character. If I was designing for an attorney, I'd probably use that. If I'm designing for a young branding company, I'd certainly use a sans serif font, something a little bit more modern. And then when I choose my 2 fonts, I always want my 2 fonts to be slightly different. So for example, I might use that font, and then for my subheading, I'm not going to use the same font. I'll go find something a little bit thinner. Let me just go into my fonts. You can also upload your own fonts. So you'll see there's also all your recently used, then your brand kit, and then your uploaded fonts. Now I have got hundreds of fonts that I've uploaded myself. So for example, there's a nice kind of thin rounded one. I might like that one. Let's change that to a script font. Let me just quickly talk about script font because this is a mistake that I see very, very often in new designs. If you are going to use a fancy font, it should only be for headings, and you should never use all caps. So, for example, if I take my first line and I now convert it to all caps, that's kind of the effect I get. So please, whenever you're using fancy fonts, don't use all caps. They just don't work. You really want your fancy fonts to be as easy to read as possible. Remember, if people can't read it, they're not staying on your page, they're not staying on your design, they're not looking at. So quite like that one, then I might do everything else in that there. Drag them around as much as I want. I just want to quickly make this a bit bigger for you. So I can show you a few more tricks. Let me just type this in here. This is line number 2. This is line number 3. Thank goodness for spell check. So now I wanted to show you some things around our fonts at the moment. First thing you can do with most fonts is the bold, italics, and the underline will pop up. If a font doesn't have a bold italics, it won't, so you can't do it there. But besides changing the size, I can also change the color of my fonts. Once again, I'll simply click on there and let's make them red. I'll make them blue. I can also make the 2 lines different colors by highlighting that line. And I can have 2 different lines in fonts. I can even go as far as making one word a different color. And you'll see that I can do all that at the time. Now, another thing that I want to show you about fonts, which is very, very important, is what's the line spacing. And over here is this fancy little thing here called advanced settings. If you click on that, 2 offers come up for you. Number 1, I can line up the letters. So in other words, if I felt they were too close together or too far apart, I can just add a little bit of distance between them. The next thing I can do is lines. Those look uncomfortably apart, so I can quickly close the line up a little bit, try and work out what's best for my eye. It's very much done on this is what looks best to me. Once again, there we go. I can also change the size of one line and not the other. So the lines do work independently from each other, but I do find that working on each line individually gives me a little bit more thing on that. Another thing you can do in fonts, there's some effects over here. Let's find something a little bit bolder. So I just want to play with something a little bit bolder for this. Let's go there, go back to, rustic. No, it's a bit, let's go back to Poppins. So I just want to show you some things on this that you can do just with your font. First of all, under Poppins, you will find, for example, if I want a thinner one or a bolder one, they're all there. So I'm not using the bold up there. But there is another button here called Effects. And under Effects, there's some really nice things. I can drop a shadow on it. You can see the shadow at the background there. I can play with the shadow. I like my shadows to be a little bit blurry. Or does it look a little bit too imposed? I can change that. I can even change the color of my shadow. I can give it a slightly pink or blue glow to it. Let's go black there. So that's the first effect, is shadow. Okay, let's go back to shadow. We've done shadow. Lift is also a really nice one. What lift does is it just brings it up. It gives it a light shadow all around the outside. So very often when I want something to stand out from an image. So for example, this doesn't work here. So I'm just going to get rid of the lift at the moment. But I'm going to put a background picture here. Not to uploads. Let's go to photos. Baking background. Just putting this one here. Set images background. Now what I can do with this by going into effects lift. it just gives it a slightly, just almost pulls it off the page or lifts it off the page. That's really what it does. I can move that backwards and forwards. Remove the background again. Let's go back to effects. That's lift. Hollow means it just leaves it absolutely hollow, which means that if there's something behind it, let's go back to that background, you can actually see through it at that particular time. It becomes see-through to the image, which can be a really nice effect. In this case, it would have to be a much lighter color. And we might even want to add some lift to it. I think you can add both. Oh no, it's not, it doesn't allow both, sorry. So there's your hollow font. Next one is Splice, which kind of gives an overlay, very modern looking one. And one of my favorites is actually Outline. So very often when I'm designing something and I want it to stand out just fractionally, I can change that, give it a slight outline. I can take the color. I can even take the color from, where's my colors? Go there, go there, go there. I want to take the color actually from that. So I picked a color that's in there. I can change the thickness of my outline. So those are kind of my favorites. I kind of work with none, shadow, lift, and outline more than anything else. Neon is a really nice one if you're doing something quite romantic. So let's go to neon. You have to change the color of the actual font to get that. So let me just change my font color. Where's that nice pink we had earlier? You can see it gives it a really nice kind of neon glow around it. Very nice for Instagram posts. Also really nice if you've got a black background. Just quickly change the background to black. And if you're using a font that's maybe a little fancier than that one, let's look for something that we used earlier like that. You start getting some like really nice effects. Another thing, sorry, I forgot to tell you that besides making your text bigger and smaller, you can actually rotate your text as well. So I can give it a bit of a rotation either way, however I want it to be. I can always watch the bottom there. I don't know if you saw while I was rotating it, just underneath it, there's the -5, -9, -10, -20. The nice thing to know that, for example, if I put that at -16, my first line, and now I want to type again, I want to use that same font. I'm just going to go Control-C. I'm going to duplicate that, make that a lot smaller. Let's make that like a 42. Dear diary, this is my first entry. Help if I could spell. Dyslexia rules. Make it bigger. I might decide for this particular one here that I do like the file. Once again, let's make the line a little smaller without getting too crowded. Can bring the line a bit closer. I've kept them both at 15 degrees so that that doesn't mess around with that. What else is there? I can animate it. We're going to do animation next time. It's much better than anything else. It's a little bit too fancy for now. Let's change the background again, get rid of these two again, go back to some more text. Heading type in second chance, all caps. Make it really nice and big. Move it around as much as I like. You can see I'm using, let me just show you something quickly. Let's say I'm making a list of things. Second chance, Control-C, Control. Just want to duplicate a few of them. Just imagine that they're all slightly different. And I want them all to line up really nicely. So I'll pick where the first one is. And as I bring that second one over, you will see it'll show me. There we are. You can see the lines there. It shows me when the lines are the same. It'll also show me when space is the same. I really want to space them really nicely. In fact, let's just quickly, I just want to move all of these out the way and work only with that one. There's the first one. I've lined it up in the middle. Another thing I can do is I can go over to my ruler and I can drag a ruler and I can bring it across until it touches there. Now I know exactly where to put everything. Absolutely perfect placement. Once I've done that, easy enough to change one of the words, move it back there. Oh, so let me help you with that one. Let me just show you quickly. Control Z. Right now, as I click on it, there is the justification alignment. All of these are, when they, as by default, they're all center aligned. In other words, if I type something and I keep typing it, it'll move it automatically to the middle of the. But what I can do, and I want to do for these, is I'm going to make them all left aligned. And sorry, another thing I can do with that, once I've got the one I want, it's my copy, paste it, copy, paste it, copy, paste it, copy, paste it. Now, when I type in the word third, it should stick to the exact right spot. There we are, third. Fourth, etc. Just helps with alignment, helps with lining up. Once again, I can change colors. We've done that before. Let's make that one blue. I can go to that one. I can give that one an effect. I can give it an outline. I can go to that one, give it a different effect, and make it neon. You can see you can do multiple things on the page as you go along. So let's just talk about this page at the moment. Let's say, let me go back here. Let's say I can't decide between whether this should be black on white or white on black. I'm going to put that in the middle there myself. Get rid of that margin. I can't decide whether this should be black on white or white on black. So what I can do is I can change everything. I can change all of those to white. And I can change the background to black. And I can look at them and say, I think that one. But now, what did the first one look like? I can't remember, so I go back again. So a simple trick is to duplicate pages. There you'll see a little button at the bottom there, say duplicate page. So now I duplicate the page. I keep the first page exactly as it was. And on this page, I'm going to change all of these to white, the background to black. And now I can actually compare the two. And I can decide which of those I actually want. Then I might think, hang on a second, what if we did something a little bit fancy, given that our brand is called Second Chance, what if we made the second a different color? Orange on black. So there we go. Now I'm looking at different designs. Going, okay, we're getting closer to what I want. I like this one over here. What if we then made this a little bit more prominent? So what I can do with that one, over here is a little transparency button. I can slide this transparency down to maybe, let's go with 65. Copy that style, paint that one, copy that style, paint that one, copy that style, paint that one, copy that style, paint that one. And now we've got 3 to choose from. And what I do myself is every time I see a design that I like and I know that I'm advanced, I will then delete a previous design. So it's not there anymore. So I'm not stuck with 2. Now I'm deciding between these 2. Then I might say to myself, okay, I really like that one, but what if we put an image in the background? So I'll duplicate that one again. I won't change that one. I'll leave that one where it was. I'll duplicate that one. I'll go to my photos. Let's type in time. See if we can maybe put a place background. So we like that one. Yeah, these might need to stand out a bit more, but I'm kind of getting there. Highlight them all, make them all solid, put it up here into the corner. Still not working for me. That background just isn't, that might be a better background. Replace, move my images over there. Now in this case, I really am going to have them fully transparent. But I'm just playing around a little bit to show you what you can do with your fonts, with your backgrounds, etc. So that's kind of on the font side. Another thing you can do with fonts is you can actually bend them as well. So if I go to effects in fonts, you'll find some curves there. Let's just clear this up. So I'm only teaching you one thing at a time. Let's just take the word second chance. Control C. By the way, you can copy anything from anywhere. Press Control C, come to this page, press Control V. There it is on this particular page. So I can kind of duplicate whatever I want. Just put in the middle. Now, another thing in effects here, I can go to curve. So I can curve it. You can see I can curve the way it curves. I can curve how much it curves. Now, an interesting thing with curving is that when you curve things, automatically, what it does is it closes the space between the letters. So very often what you need to do when you're doing a curve is go to your letter spacing and just spread your letters out a little bit more, just to make it a little bit more comfortable on the eye. So you can do, you can also learn, let me just quickly show you have a little bit of fun with this one. You can also learn to do things like this. So this, let's just go to the effects, the curve. We're going to make it 65, so I know exactly what it is. Control C, Control C, Control V. I've made another one. This one over here, when I go to effects, I'm going to make it minus 65. So it's exactly opposite, and I can put them next to each other, and I can kind of build a word by changing the second chance is all I need. Kind of building a little pattern. There's so many. It is an unbelievably powerful thing, and I'd like to save some of this for the advanced class, but this gives you just some little look into what Canva can do, how it all works. Now let's get to another very, very important thing for beginners. Now that I've decided I like my design, so for example, this is my design here. Now that I've decided I like my design, I need to export my design. I want to start using it. So quite so I'm just going to remove all the ones that I don't want. In fact, let me leave these two in here. In order to export my design, I'm going to hit the share button. There's the share button over there. In the share button, I'm going to find a download button. Hit the download button. Now I get a whole lot of options. I can export this as a JPEG, a PNG file, a standard PDF, a PDF for printing, an SVG file, which are used in web because they can make themselves bigger and smaller. You'll probably hardly ever use that. I can export it as an MP4 file, which is a video file. I can export it as a short little GIF clip, or a PowerPoint presentation. I can do it right there, but we'll come to those a bit later on. My go-to is always PNGs. I'll always export everything as PNGs. It's just a great little format. It doesn't lose much. They're small enough files to send around, and they don't lose much quality as they go along. So I'll choose to export it as a PNG file. The next thing I need to decide is whether or not I want to export both pages or only one page. Just by clicking here, I can go all pages, just the current page, or I can choose the page that I want. And if there were 20 or 30 pages, I could highlight the pages that I wanted along there. So for example, let me just put a few more pages here. There are a few more pages. Now when I go to share, download, and I select pages, you'll see that I can export page 2 and 4 only, or only page 4, or only, for example, the current page, page 1, which is the current page. Once I've pressed done and I've done download, I just hit the download button. And automatically what will happen is you'll see it come here up in your downloads. And you'll have some options here. You can click on it. And if you click on it, it'll open in a photo editor for you. Let me just drag your photo editor across here. It'll open in a photo editor for you, or I can go to click on that one over there, which is open the file. And then you will find it here. I'll find it. Sorry, I don't want to drag that. I'll find it here in my download folder. There it is. Now, another really impressive feature that the Pro version has is this ability here. And I'm going to just delete the background, so you know that stuff is still there. I'm going to go to Share. I'm going to go to Download, and I'm going to download a PNG file with a transparent background. And I'm only going to download this current page. So now when I click Download, I have downloaded this image with no background, which means that it's now sitting in my Downloads folder. There it is. And I can use that. I'm going to show you how I'm going to use it right now. Let's just get rid of all of this. Delete. Add a background. Set image. Go to my downloads, drag the image I just saved. And now I have this image that I can move around. I can place wherever I want on it. It's great for designing logos. Whenever you design a logo for yourself or a client or any element that you think that you're going to use again, simply design that element with a transparent background, save it, and reuse it time and time and time again. What else I might want to do, for example, is I'm sending this off to my printer. I want to have this printed. I want to have this made into a nice poster. I go to Share. Printers do like to receive stuff in PDF format. I go to PDF print. I click on the print button. It's going to be quite a big file. Once again, I'm only going to use page 1. I'm then it's going to my printer. So best for professional printing, I'm changing it to CMYK. And what I might want to do is I might want to flatten my PDF, which means that nobody can manipulate my PDF for me. Press download. And now I have a file that's ready to send to my printer. Very often when I send stuff off to a printer, I'll send them a print-ready PDF file, and I will also send them a PNG file so they can have a look at both. If I click up there on my downloads, there's the file that's going to my printer. They're able to print as big as you kind of want along there. Okay, let's close. Don't want this to. Okay, so that's kind of on that side. Let's just go into one more little thing, and let's go back into designs. Let's go to my home page. And let's say I want to design something now kind of from scratch. And as I said to you, what I'd really like you to learn to do is to start using templates. So I can go up here and I can click templates. And we're going to just stick with our Valentine's. So I'm going to go Valentine's dinner. I'm going to look and see what it offers me for Valentine's dinners. So let's say I'm making a really nice poster for my restaurant. In fact, that's a Facebook page. I simply click on that. It'll show me the design. I can also store it, so I can come back to it at any stage that I want. And I can also look who made it. I can follow that. If I like a particular design, I can follow their trends along the way. I can see it's in the right size exactly that I want for Facebook. And I'm going to hit customize this post. So there it is. Valentine's dinner. Book something special this season of love. I actually want to remove those two over there. And what I am going to do is I'm going to go to my own uploads. I'm just going to type in a keyword steak, because my restaurant's called Steak by Rail and Rustic. Everything I've ever designed with the word steak on it should come up. Looking for one background in particular. Looking for that one over there. Pop that on. move its place, put it at the bottom there. Really nice thing. When I click on it, there's a little orange color up there. I can change that orange to black. That's not really working as a lot. Now sometimes the color change isn't great, but we'll just leave that one. Control C, Control V, just duplicate it. Put it in the same place over here. Make sure I've got spacing right. There we go. I might want to change the date. No problem. I just click on there to 2026. And I'm going to be serving from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. because I want to go to bed early. And you'll find us at 33 Bland, nice typing, Mike. Bland Street, Mossel Bay. For reservations, 081-398-2190. Really easy. I like it. I don't like it. Let's look at the Valentine's. Go to effects. Add a bit of lift to it. I do prefer that. It looks much nicer. Valentine's dinner date. Book something special this season of love. Like that one. But by using a template, I've saved myself hours and hours and hours of not having to first go find all the pictures, then download them, then overlay them. Templates are absolutely fantastic, and I highly recommend in the beginning that you start everything with templates. So let me just quickly go back to Valentine's, switch off Valentine's. Let's say in the audience we have an estate agent. There we are. Look for estate agent. Look for estate agent boards, things about me. I can look for rental property. There we go. Find one that vacation rental. Click on it. Say customize this image. Show you another little trick while we at it. Let's say, for example, you really do like this one, but your color is not purple. Your color, for example, is a nice, what color should we make it? You happen to be a green color. Let's go to Nedbank green. Nedbank green color. Did you see that as I clicked on it, here's a button here that says change all. Just by clicking on that, it changed all the ones in that size that were green to that color. I can also click on this box over here, change it to that same color. There's the color we use. Press change all. It's changed those boxes to green. Where it says your logo, please don't forget to remove that. You can go to your own logos. Where's my logos? State Albert Style. This is a property that I used to market. State Albert Style. Put that up there. Move it into place. Line it up. Change any details you want. Add anything. And just for today, let's add one more little trick. Let's go to our photos. Let's search for a happy family. See what images come up. Let's look for some family look like they're having some fun. There's a family having some fun. Control, because I don't want it to go in the box. What I am going to do with this image is I'm going to remove the background. Now I've got that. And I've now added, that could almost be Circalisi. Although if it was Circalisi, I'll probably have to do that, wouldn't I? That was rude, Mark. Apologies here. Look at them. A little bit of editing. Go to shadows. Add a drop shadow. Move the direction of the drop shadow. So it's up there. Just make them look like they're standing off the image a little bit. Go to that image inside there. Go to edit. We'll do all this next week in advance, but I just want to show you how easy it is. Go to blur. Go to whole image. Just blur that background. Give what's called a bokeh whole image. There we go. So now you can, maybe that's a little bit too much, but what I have done there is kind of taken the focus off the background and onto the happy couple as we go along. But we'll get to that a bit later on. So this is a real introduction to Canva, some design things. Now what I want to run with you through is about 10.5 tips so we can get started. Tip number 1 before you start designing is know exactly what you're designing for. That makes a really, really big difference. We will do some resizing next week, but if I can start off at the right design, that really does make a huge difference. If I go back to homepage, let's get rid of templates quickly. So I'm going to go to home. If I know what I'm looking for up front, so for example, if I'm designing for social media, I will click on social media. I will look at Instagram. And I'll see that I'm going to do an Instagram story, an Instagram reel, an Instagram post, or a square Instagram post. I need to start designing in the size that I want. So, for example, if I'm going to design a poster, I might just go up here and type in the word poster and start with a poster size. I'm designing an A3 poster in landscape. I'm designing a poster in portrait. The more information I have, the better my design will be later if I start with the right design. I am a big fan of the Facebook post. You'll see it'll always come up on my thing. It'll always be one of my favorites because it's always really popular. Facebook post, anything I want. There's some designs for me to copy and paste on. But as I say, let's start off by doing the right design, picking the right design first. Second thing is know what you're designing for. Am I designing for print? Am I designing for video? Am I designing for social media? Am I designing for something that I'm going to hand out as a robot? The more I know, the better I am. The next rule, and I'll go through this over and over again, just open this design for you quickly, is when I move things, let's just go to a blank page, sorry. When I move stuff around, you'll see that purple box coming up. And anything inside that purple box is known as the safe space. Unless, for example, like I did when we did this property montage. Come on. Oh man, don't hang now. I deliberately came to the edge of the page because I can't have them sitting in the middle of nowhere, but otherwise you'll find that all the time, I'm always leaving a lot of space around the outside. Key thing that very often when someone sends me a design, the first thing I say to them is move everything off the edges. It is very, very difficult to read something and you don't even understand why if it kind of sits there and that piece sits over there. You don't even know why it's confusing to the brain. So please get used to practicing white space and what I call the safe areas. Don't design outside the safe areas. Also, master alignment, understanding that things need to line up. So for example, if I'm going to put let me just add a couple of pictures here. If I'm going to put this picture here, I don't just want it to be anywhere, I want it to line up with things. So I want the edge of the E and the edge of my picture to line up. These are things, it's almost the invisible skill, the invisible strength. I'm putting this one here. Where am I going to do? I'm going to line it up with the edge of that one, and I'm going to line it up with the bottom, or there we are with the top of that one. And you can see those alignment lines come up. The more you can get things to be aligned, the better it is. Next rule, 2 fonts per design if possible. maybe only one, but go with two. Two work really well. One font for a headline and one font for for the body. That really works. Also understand hierarchy, and I didn't discuss hierarchy. Let me just discuss that right now. Let's say, for example, I was doing an invitation. Um, let me quickly go into Canva, invite. I just want to look for a template. Invite template. Just so I can show you how this is a great one to show you. This is a very, very fine example. Now, what you'll notice here is that everything is almost a different size. So there are basically three fonts being used here. The script font, very small. There is in fact, these are probably the same font. Let me just check. That's Tan and Cardo. So they've actually used three fonts here. What they've simply done is by using the italics button, they've given it a bit more emphasis. So now when you look at it, what's important? First thing to know, it is a birthday party. Yay, it's a birthday party. What's next important? It's Olivia's birthday party and she wants me to have fun. Why is she having the party? Because Avery is turning 25. There's the details. Where is it? When is it? And where is it? So when is more important, because before I know where to go, I need to know if I can go. So you will notice there's a slight difference. That's at 25.8 and that's at 21. There's just a slight difference in font, giving our design some hierarchy, making it important, now if I were to do all this for you quickly, I'm just going to quickly do something for you. Shift, 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 shift. Change all of these to size 28. Change all of these to one font. That's the difference. That's what beginners are sending out, and that's what they could be sending out with the tiniest bit of effort. And I want you guys to be better. What's that story? Just be better. So that's design side. Next, understanding colors. Try not to use colors that clash with each other. It's very, very difficult to read some colors on other ones. Red does not really read well on black. It becomes a little bit hard on the eye. Greens and blues don't read well together. Green and a blue color. There's not enough contrast in those two colors. So if you're looking for that, you can learn a little bit about that. You can look at suggestions. There are websites that do that for you. So on the color side, when you're using photographs, let's say, another thing I want to tell you, let's say I'm designing something, I'm doing a coffee shop. So I'll go to photos, coffee. Another thing I will try and do is I'll try and use similar fonts throughout. So for similar pictures. So if I'm using that one, I now want to try and find images that match that image. I don't want to go back there, add another photo, photos, coffee shop. That one, this looks like I just didn't spend any time or effort trying to make things work. So try and stick to the same families, the same designs, the same look and feel about them. Just gives it a little bit more professional as you go along. And then get your export right. Just when it comes to exporting, get your export right.